Okay, so my project was Photoshop, and I just wanted to, my main learning goal was just to get comfortable with a lot more techniques to use in Photoshop CS6, and yeah, because I want to go more into depth with it next year, so I just wanted to get more comfortable with it. What did I plan to do, and what was the end result? My original plan was to, um, it was to create a zoo full of like animals that you would see at a zoo, but with my dog's face on them. And I was gonna blend them in so that it would still look like a bird or whatever, but that wasn't really gonna work because the heads were different sizes, and anyways, it didn't work out. So for the first probably a week, I just kind of messed around with this, and then I realized that I'd rather do something that would involve more technique instead of just copying and pasting and possibly warping it a little bit, because I wanted to blend more. So the very first thing I did when I realized that I wanted to do Photoshop was I did this. I just found a quick tutorial on it just so I learned some new things with layers and how channels. And then I did this. If you cannot tell, it's just Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un. Um, and then I got into the whole idea of my dog in a zoo. And so I made this and this. And this is my dog Pippa, by the way. And Pippa as an elephant. And I had all these animals I was gonna do, but then again, like I said earlier, I realized that I wanted to do something more that included morphing my face into something else. I used Photoshop CS6 and a bunch of YouTube tutorials. The main one I used was I have it right here. This one. And it was a really good tutorial. It was pretty in-depth, and then he has some other tutorials that go into refining edges and other just little details. What worked? Everything pretty much worked. I definitely had some trouble figuring out how to do some of the things, such as erasing some parts and warping and learning how to get the nose and the eyes and the mouth all lined up with the opacity down, and it took a lot of tries. As you can see here, I eventually ended up choosing that I was going to morph my face with a wolf, hence my name, Baylee Wolf. So this was the wolf picture that I chose. And then this picture is, I'm pretty sure this is the one I used for my photo ID in August, it would have been. So I eventually got to this point, and of course it doesn't look good at all. Like, nothing's aligned up. It's horrible fading, like the background isn't even there. I don't know how I did that, but that's just another picture of the wolf. This is when I got to, I made it a displacement by blurring it a little bit. That was just a part of the tutorial, and it eventually helped line everything up. This was, oh, okay, I got you. Never mind. This was my first try. It looks really bad and stupid, but everything's lined up pretty well, and then I just added the ears for fun. And this was my final project. I did not add the ears on this one. What I mainly focused on was lining everything up and going around, and I used my brush tool a lot to get everything lined up, and I had to warp and distort and displace things for hours, probably just trying to get everything lined up perfectly, because a wolf like has a snout and I don't have a snout, so that was really hard to get the eyes lined up, and the eyes to look equal. That was probably the hardest part, is to get the nose and the eyes to look the same size and go in the same direction. And that took quite a few hours just to finally figure that out. My project plan was, I can pull it up. Week 1 was to watch tutorials and take pics if needed. I'll show the pics to Mrs. Dink, and then just work on it. This is my modified plan when I eventually chose to do the whole wolf morphing thing. Before, it was to do this many animals, then this many animals, then this many animals, and show it. And but then I changed it to this. I stayed on track pretty well. The first whole week was pretty much messing around just so I could get the key ideas. Like this one, I dealt with layers and channels. This one, I dealt with morphing and blending. This one, I dealt with cutting and pasting, and this one was liquefying. So I did stick to it pretty well. And I don't really ever think that I got behind. Yeah, overall, I stuck to my plan well. And of course, how did I adjust it? I said that I modified it to a whole new project, but with the same Photoshop CS6. My project results, I already showed you this, but I'll show it to you one more time. And again, I didn't add the ears on it just because I felt like that made it look really stupid. The main thing I focused on was lining it up again, and when you zoom in, I think it looks really cool because it blended. Probably my favorite part is how it blended in with my skin. Like the whiter parts of the face is that it blended in with the peach tint of my skin, I guess. And I went in and I used my brush and got these are my eyes, and I got those to show through the wolf's eyes, and my lips show a little bit so that you can still see them, but I mean, they're not like they're still there, but not fully there, I guess. Okay, so that's my result, and then my overview. Let's see what this entails. What did I learn? I definitely learned that, well, throughout my whole Vision Tech career, I've learned that you have to stay on top of your schedule and you have to work on it pretty much every single day, especially if it's a big project. Like my music video, I put a lot more hours into that, but I had to because that was such a huge project, and this was probably a smaller project, but to try and enhance my the things that I learned is I did all those other little projects before I actually did my final project. Problem solving. A lot of things I had to go to Mrs. Dink for, and if she didn't know them, I'd have to write search drains and look for other more in-depth tutorials, and that took a lot of time, and it really did stress me out because I had to start over new over and over again with just the 2 regular pictures, and I redid the whole project quite a few times probably, and that got really frustrating. If I could redo my project, I would probably one thing that I'm realizing is that I didn't really blend this, and that's just another tutorial that I would have had to watch. And with all the other miniature projects I did before this final one, I just didn't really have time to watch how to blend properly. I probably could, but it wouldn't look very good. So yeah, if I were to redo the project, I would definitely learn how to blend better and use the refining edge tool a lot more. One thing that I really had trouble with was the refining edge tool, because when I would use it, it would blend up here, but then the face would shrink down to like right there and wouldn't show any of that, and then my chin was just my face, and that of course didn't look good because then nothing aligned, and if I liquefied it out, it looked stupid. So I eventually had to like just take the whole entire picture pretty much and warp it until it was good enough, and that took quite a bit of time. Overall, I'm pretty proud of my project, just because I did learn a lot of new things that I had no idea about before, such as keyboard shortcuts and tricks to cutting and pasting. And I learned more about like the terms such as displacement and distort, perspective, liquefy, and warping. Of course, that was the main thing I did. Yeah, so that's pretty much my project. Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed, and if you guys want to learn how to do this and go into even more depth into it, make sure to check out this tutorial and go to his channel and check out more of his refining edge tutorials, and feel free to look up more in-depth tutorials and how-tos online. Yeah.